Okay, everyone, welcome back to Capital Conversations. This is our three-part series. And last month we did the anatomy of a deal with our fellow mastermind, Todd. And I am with Fi here with Leaving Legacy Investment. She is the co-host. What we did last month was really just break down what it really takes to step into syndication, the mindset, the team, the timelines, and all just the moving parts behind a purchase and sale agreement. And Todd gave us a really nice, good look and transparent look behind the curtains of his first deal. So tonight we're just diving into something that really separates a successful investment from one that could potentially leave you burnt, due diligence. This is the phase where you make money or you can lose money long before closing day. The red flags are going to, reveal themselves. You want to be able to protect your investors, your partners, and yourself, which is why due diligence is so important. So tonight, Todd's going to walk you through how he approached due diligence on his first deal, what surprised him, what challenged him, and what he learned that even seasoned investors overlook. So whether you're planning your first syndication, if I could speak, or evaluating your next investment, this session will give you a lens that you must look through to make confident, informed decisions. We will let Todd take it off from here and just kind of interject with questions as we see fit. So Todd, we'll let you take it from here.
Thank you very much. So, like Brianna said, this is my first large deal, and I wanted to pass along the information to everyone because a lot of times we never get to see this side of it. We're talked about how to underwrite deals and how to raise capital for other people, but nobody explained to me this is about what's about to happen and it's going to consume the next 6 months of your life. So we opened up last month with the purchase and sale agreement and how to get a good attorney and key things to look for in that purchase and sale agreement. The next thing we're going to get into is due diligence. And if you don't know what due diligence is, think of it as your home inspection when you buy a house. However, this is going to be on steroids. It's whatever that terminology times 1,000, because this is going to be your first chance to get inside the building that you're going to buy and see if it's worth buying. So in this due diligence, a lot of things come about of it. How you raise money on this deal, how you can talk to different people and say, hey, I've been there. This is what the place needs. You are going to check what everybody has told you up until this point. The broker, maybe the owner, maybe an investor. Oh, I know that place or whatever. No, this is going to be on you to double check the investment that you are about to buy. It is a scary process. It is a process that takes organization, but we will get into it here. So like I talked about a little bit of due diligence. We talked about the purchase and sale agreement. That part's done. We are now into our due diligence period. Like I said, this is going to be your BS meter. I hate to use that term, but this is going to be how you're going to prove that this is a good investment. I have tried to buy multiple properties, and at least two I've walked away during due diligence because I knew that from my underwriting going into due diligence was going to be massively different coming out of due diligence. I saw more capital expenditures on one. I didn't like how the apartment looked. I didn't trust what they said with regard to income. And at the end of the day, as the PSA allowed me, I walked away from the deal with my money back. A lot of times in a lot of purchase and sale agreements, the end of your due diligence period is when you're going to lose some of your down payment, depending on how it's written. So a lot of people need to get the due diligence right and the dates right. We'll talk a little bit more about due diligence. It's just a fancy house inspection. That's what it is. But we'll talk a little bit about how I did mine. So this is the building that we're going to buy. Me, Faya, and Brianna are going to buy this building. And it's in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's 100 doors. And we're under contract. And our attorney has told us we're locked in. We're going to start following our time frame agreement. If you remember in our purchase and sale agreement, we made a list of critical dates. And what the second critical date is a due diligence items receipt. which means you are going to send a list to your broker who is going to forward it to the seller, and you're going to tell him, these are the items that I want to see regarding this building. There is no magic list out there. There are other lists out there that says this would be a good idea to ask for, but every building is different. The other thing that I will tell you, this is your list. If you want to see something, you put it on the list. We'll talk a little bit about exceptions and stuff like that later, but this is what I mean by due diligence items receipt. In most purchase and sales agreements, your due diligence period, so if you see here ours on the screen, we are going to get our due diligence items by April 14th, and then our PSA says we have 30 days to inspect the property. Now, at the end of this 30 days, if we don't go back to the broker and say, hey, we don't like the roof on this building, or we don't like the plumbing on this building, it's going to be assumed that we're going through with the sale. It's not a matter of, hey, are you going to go through the sale? It's just assumed. So you'll be the one that has to go back to the broker. I just came out of a deal in which on the very last day, the Friday before a holiday on Monday, walked away from a deal because of due diligence. So the key thing here is we'll talk more about what to ask for, but I want to get the concept to everyone. This is your list. This is my list, Fi's list, and Brianna's list. We have to get things on this list or we are dissatisfied and we believe the PSA agreement is not valid. So let's talk a little bit about that. In most PSA agreements, the time frame does not start until you get all of your stuff in your list. So you can start your due diligence, that's fine, away from the property. But your 30 days is not started until your list is completely in. So I would strongly make sure your attorney understands that. And if you're missing something off the list because I've asked for a rent roll and I don't have it, I send a letter to my attorney, please contact the other attorney and say our due diligence timeframe has not started because we do not have everything on our list. I heard somebody say, well, aren't you sounding like a jerk? Yes, I am, because this is the building that I'm going to ask people for money. This is the building that I'm going to put my name on, so to speak, my reputation behind. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But this is the time frame we're going to follow. So we're going to assume that we're right before we're on the 9th. We've got to create a list to sell. I'm sorry, a list to present to our broker to take to the owner. Okay. So again, these documents are your choice. You will see all different types of documents sent back to you. I just looked at an apartment building where the guy was 79 years old and hand wrote ledgers out. That due diligence would be very different than somebody that works for that's got a big time rental manager, property manager there, and he can send you statements just at the click of a button. So every building's different, but these are your documents. This is what's important to you. What do you want to see? Okay, so what are you going to inspect? Before we inspect anything, you got to have a plan. You're about to get a bunch of documents in your hand quickly, and you need to have a plan on where you're going to first copy these documents. Remember, he's going to give you documents. Whatever he gives you, you're going to copy, you're going to store them, and you're going to refer back to these thousands of times. And I do mean thousands of times. You're going to go back and forth with these documents. I probably got 2 terabytes of data, pictures and audio and leases and everything else. So you need to have a plan with your GP group, in this case, me, Brianna, and Faya, of how we're going to store this information, how we're going to share this information, and frankly, how we're going to categorize it.
Todd, I have a question.
Yes.
So how do you identify any red flags in documentation? Like what would be a telltale sign that something just doesn't look right?
So I'll get into that here in the financial documents.
Okay.
But let's say, for example, I'll give you one example. The broker says, hey, this guy's getting $900 a month in rent, and you've gone through the leases and he's getting $825. Right? So that's a red flag. And again, I apologize for some of my language or some of my tone, but I want to make the point. That's a problem. Somebody's lied to us. Somebody has, told us something wrong, or somebody's mistaken, right? But that's an example right there. That's a major red flag to me because that throws off cash flow first year. It throws off how much I have to raise rents. But it also leads me to be suspicious about other things. Okay, so again, we've underwrote this property. We like this property, but now we're getting stuff back that we don't like about it. That's a great example. I'll talk more about that here in a minute. Um, so the first thing I ask for is financial documents. Okay, I want to see your past 2 years at least of T12s. Everybody knows what T12 is, the trailing 12 months of financial information. Okay, you want to see that. You want to see maybe a budget, although I don't put a lot of faith in them. You maybe want to see a forecast. I don't put a lot of faith in that because I didn't create it. I want to see the rent roll. This is key. These first two things are very key. If you can't produce these, there's a major problem with the building. A rent roll would show me occupancy rates. It would show me payments. It would show me, who's paying, who's behind, delinquencies, the general ledger, for the past 2 years. If you don't know what a general ledger is, it is everything that happens with the property. It's your checkbook. It's money in, money out on the property. I want to see utility bills, CapEx. I want to see tax records. I want to know if my building in a municipality that I'm not familiar with, do I have to pay for trash? Does the city pay for trash? Does the tenant pay for trash? All that goes to my bottom line. So that's why I'd ask for utility bills. So those are the financial documents asked for. Sorry. Resident
So
documents.
Todd,
Yes.
1 second. In the financial documents, so
Yep.
what do you think is the biggest metric that maybe new operators should concentrate on and maybe analyze that isn't, I don't know, just top of mind?
Well, what you're going to see first is if this T12s match your underwriting file or what was put in the OM that you've been staring at for the last couple months. It could be vastly different. I've got a separate training on OMs and what to look for, and all of them have that wording that says, "This is just a production. Don't take anything at face value." It's probably that tiny legal wording at the end of it, but they all say that because maybe the broker did the OM, but this is actually what's happening. The apartment complex I told you about, the older man. In that case, the broker did his financial statements, and he told me that. He's like, this guy does it by hand, so I'm doing it for him, so I can. He doesn't even own a computer, right? That's acceptable. Okay, I get that or whatever. The broker told me that. That's the main thing you're going to look at out of these, and the rent roll. The rent roll is probably the most important. So the rent roll is another thing a rent roll will tell you how much you're occupied. So if the broker says you're 95% occupied, and we have 100 units, and 15 of them are empty, we're 85% occupied. That's That's a big change from what you told me. That right there would be a reason possibly for me to get out of the contract. So those are the financial documents and anything else you can think of. This is not a list. This is just stuff that will pop into your head. The residence document and the big one here are the leases. We've seen leases in boxes. We've seen them organized, but you're going to have somebody in your team, not me, because I'm not this guy, but somebody in your team who's good at reading and organizing has to read every lease. They have to know whether Cindy, who lives in room 106, gets free rent because she mows the grass. That goes to my bottom line. The delinquency report, again, who's paying, who's not paying, evictions, who is currently in an eviction status, what that looks like. And if I put Section 8.5 contracts in here, if you are buying a property that is affordable housing, it is another level of due diligence that you must go through. So you'll want all those properties related to that. Then you want to see how the property is operated. So you're going to look at all the vendor and service contracts. You don't want to buy a building that in the bottom floor has 25 washing machines and is being managed by one of the most corrupt guys in the city because he takes 90% of your profit, right? You have to know that. You want to see repairs. You want to see who's on the staffing list. Highly likely you're going to bring that person on if you're going to have employees. You'll want to see open work orders. You're going to look at that and you're going to try and figure out why we can't get the air conditioning fixed in room 60 or apartment 60. This is going on for 6 months. Um, and then you're going to try and understand how the building operates. Bob owns it, but Tom manages it. But Tom goes to Florida 3 months a year, and then it's a guy named Chris. All that stuff is going to go to your bottom line. Okay, so that's the property side of it. After the property side of it, we're going to look at legal things. You're going to have somebody search the title while you do this. One of the other dates in our PSA is for title objections. Hey, I didn't know this, but we owe $50,000 to an electrician who's put a lien on the property 10 years ago. Surveys of the property, any kind of environmental reports that were done, easements. Well, there's a train that comes to the apartment every night at 2 a.m. Things like, I mean, it sounds crazy, but there's some goofy stuff out there. Legal violations with the city. We're on a lawsuit with the city, by the way. We wanted to tell you that. Any kind of litigation you're going through, again, surveys, title. I looked at a building one time where across the street was a beautiful parking lot where all the tenants parked, but I learned I don't own that parking lot. It was just a guy in town that allows the tenants to go there. It could be problematic when it comes to parking, things like that. Um, and then you have to think what's unique about your building. The building that I just closed on, I was in charge of an elevator issue. I know a lot about elevators right now. I just can tell you all you want to know about elevators, just because that was an issue that came up. We had our elevator, because we had an elevator, we hired an elevator guy who said, you have problems with your elevator. So what we did in that case, we went back to the owner and said, we have problems with the elevator. We need $25,000 to fix the elevator, and he agreed. So there's an example. Our due diligence paid off, and we got our elevator fixed for $25,000. I put retention ponds in there. You want to make sure that water doesn't run towards your property, or you don't have drainage issues. Rodents. You may talk to a broker and be like, man, we had a rat problem 2 years ago, but it seems to have gone away. Like, okay, well, what would you do if you had a rat problem? And you're like, okay, and then a pool. You would definitely get a pool inspected. So those are different levels of specialists. I'll talk more about specialists. So as part of our due diligence, we're going to go on site and we are going to learn more about our building. Us three have never been in this building before. So we need to get together and figure out, number one, what do we want to see? We have an elevator. Okay, we want an elevator repair guy. Well, we want to see the basement. We've heard things about the basement. But what you definitely want to see is every apartment building inside and out. If you go to 100 units and 7 of them are not available, that's not good. That would be another reason to come out of due diligence. You are looking for water leaks. You are looking for anything that catches your eye. One of the things we did, we stood in front of an apartment door and we took a picture of the number on the door. Then we walked in, videotaped each room, took a picture of each apartment in each room, and walked back out. We have a record now of all the apartments. We did that for 100 different units, and we have a record now of each room and each issue. So everybody remember room 69? Of course we don't remember room 69, but because we've organized our information, we can go back and say, oh, there's 69 that had a roof leak. We need to figure out what's going on with that roof leak. What's the plan?
Was there any big surprises when you did the walkthrough in the last deal on one certain apartment?
Just the number of people that refused to get out of bed. So the owner had made arrangements for us to give a tour, and I probably saw 25 people in their bed. They just decided not to get up, even though we walked through with property management. They didn't want to get up. But we also got the first look at the apartments. We found one resident out of 100 that probably needed to be evicted due to cleanliness issues. Other than that, they looked good. We were pleased. That's our first look at the apartment. We looked at the HVAC. So I'll talk more about specialists here in a minute. How are you going to record this information? Where's it going to go? What's Faya going to do on site? What's Brianna going to do on site? What am I going to do on site? And here's the big one. What experts do you need to hire? You are going to spend some money on due diligence because you're going to bring in an expert that you don't know much about. And then what happens if you can't inspect something? This has to be a discussion between the three of us. What is a deal breaker? Is not seeing 7 units out of 100 a deal breaker? I think it is. If there's no follow-up plan and none of us can get out of there, and the broker says, you can trust me on it, don't do that. Okay? You have to decide what's a deal breaker. I'll give you an example of that now. So I wanted to have some fun, and I went to Chat GPT and said, if I had an unlimited budget and I wanted to bring an inspector with me to do an apartment due diligence, what would I say? And this is what it came back. Licensed structural engineer, roofing contractor, HVAC technician. It goes on and on and on. So when we did our on-site, we brought the following with us. We brought a roofing inspector with us. So we went in to buy 2 buildings at the same time. The roof inspector came down from both roofs and said, you have a major issue with one of your roofs. And I said, okay, what's it going to cost me to fix this roof? He said $125,000. That's an issue, right? We
Todd,
decided,
sorry to interrupt. We have a question in the chat, and I thought it was a good time to ask when you mentioned that amount.
okay.
What is a cap on the amount you're willing to lose on due diligence?
You mean like, on inspectors? Is it in the chat here?
It's in the chat.
Okay, let me see if Michelle, do you mean like on how much you're willing to spend on inspectors?
Right, like anything that you would be willing to spend on a building on due diligence when you're thinking of buying it. How far do you go usually? Do you have a cap, or does it depend on the building?
I think it depends.
How much you really want it, how
Yeah,
desirable.
and all these inspectors are different with the chart. It's a very good question.
Mhm.
I know what I have an expert to weigh on. Does that make sense? So
Mhm.
I know our sewer scope. We had a sewer scope done. It cost me $600.
Mhm. Mhm.
Best $600 I ever spent because now I had a drainage issue and I have video that shows that my sewer is good.
Okay.
And also in this particular city, the sewer, my responsibility ran to the road. So if I had to dig up my sewer, my drain line from my hotel, I would have to call the city, shut down the road, dig up the road, repair it, and then put a new road back. So to me, that's $600 well spent.
Yes. Okay.
So it's a good question. We took with us a roofing inspector. We took a general inspector. We scoped the sewer. We took an elevator inspector with us, thankfully. And then we brought along who we thought, and we hired him later, was going to be our property manager. So we had 13 people walking around during the inspection of 2 buildings. It's a lot. I wouldn't recommend it, but these were 2 buildings we split up. We split up duties, but that's who we took. One of the things that's going to happen either right before closing and probably right after closing is your lender's going to ask for an inspection on the building, and as well as your insurance inspector's going to come in. I wouldn't pay for them because they're coming anyway on their own dime. I just went through an insurance inspection with a property, and I don't have enough fire extinguishers at $16 a pop. I had to put more in. That's going to happen. But the people that I paid for those, I think if you have identified a problem, let's use my rat problem again. If you know that you had rats, or you think you may have asbestos, or you think that the HVACs are all bad, I would probably bring along an expert in that category, if that makes sense. If you realize something's bad, like we did a roof inspection because they were flat roofs, but we were also told the roof was replaced 5 years ago. And it was, but it was a bad job. So, we could have got lucky on that one, but I think you're going to bring in I would always bring a general property inspector. I would always bring in probably some type of, I would always scope a sewer because it's very little cost and it's a big reward item. Maybe an ADA compliance if you were doing like an elderly living or assisted living or something like that. But if you've got a problem or you think you may have a problem going in, I would bring an expert with you.
What's a typical timeline to complete the entire due diligence process?
So typically you have 30 days for an inspection process. Then you might have a week for rebuttals. So basically, depending on what your PSA says, we've come back, me, Braun, and Fi, and we've said, hey, we've got some issues. Let's go back and maybe we get a price reduction, or maybe we bring it up to the broker. In the case of the second building with the roof issue, we asked for the roof to be repaired. He said no. And we came out of that deal. We decided that we're going to terminate that contract, and that was done, and we went on to buy the other building and not both.
So what was your internal dialogue with coming to that decision, like within your team to walk away from that? Was that an emotional one? Was that an easy consensus? What kind of dialogue was that?
That was an easy consensus because we knew that we did not want to take on a $125,000 hit in the first year. Right? So it's off our bottom line. We've already projected a certain amount of numbers. Again, we're cross-checking bills and their T12 to what we've underwritten to. I don't want to pay for this roof. And the odd thing about this roof is it still should have been under warranty. I didn't want to spend a year chasing a warranty company for a roof that I'm the new owner. So we asked for a concession, and I think the owner made the right call. He said, I'm not willing to do it. I'll go back and try and get the warranty done on it and sell it at my price. But
Evan,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
So
No, go ahead.
Our attorney's like, if we want to get out of it, you have about 12 hours. And I saw this in my PSA. The attorney we used had 2 little kids. He wasn't going out on a Friday night. He was home. That's when we needed him. He cranked out the letter, got us out of it. So on the other one, it was just a matter. I saw some things that I couldn't reconcile the revenue with what I saw. And that was a painful one to come out because that would have been my first large deal. And I had to make the call on that like the night before the money was due.
So that was an emotional one for you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to do it, but I mean, your heart and head battle each other, and head should always win. So I came out of that deal. Again, we're at the point where we've taken all this information, we're looking at it, we're trying to decide what our next moves are, and then what you have to decide for yourself is what is the deal breaker. Are you happy with what you saw, or is there something there that is a deal breaker? I can tell you on another property I looked at, our capex would have gone through the roof. Broker says one number, I underwrote to that number. He said 5 to 7 air conditioning, 5 to 7 HVAC units a year. I'm probably going to do 20 a year. So that's where the tough part is. You have to decide what is the deal breaker. So if you have a deal breaker, let's go back to that line. You have to have that deal breaker either done by the 14th, and I don't have it another time or line in here for rebuttals, but you have to make the decision in this monthly time frame between the 14th and the 15th. Now, to Fi's question, typically there's another week, but by the 14th, you need to tell them, I'm not doing this deal. Because if the 14th goes by and you don't say nothing, you're in the deal. So that's really it. I think the big thing to know here is what are you comfortable with, and how does this affect your underwriting and what you believe, how you operate. I believe I can make $10,000 a month or $40,000 a month, but I can't if I pay for these red flags. And if it hits my cash flow, can I pay my investors? Can I pay myself? Can I pay my loan? That's the tough part.
So how do you manage the pressure of just that? Like, making sure that you have that in mind, right? Yourself, your investors, how do you manage all of that pressure and being like, okay, this is something I have to walk away from. This is something that I want to keep moving forward on. Yeah, I just say the pressure of all of it.
Yeah, so I have the underwriting file. I know what works. If I start adding things in, and my net profit, my net operating income that we know so well keeps dropping and dropping because my expenses are going up, that's when the pressure hits. How much can I absorb until I say I'm not doing it, I'm walking away? Um,
So
I,
Michelle asked
but
earlier about the amount, like is there a cap on the amount you're willing to lose?
no,
Is it smart or is it a way to kind of budget in what you may have to spend for due diligence?
a lot of times in a syndication, I'm going to get my due diligence money back as opposed to closing costs. But I'm going to front these costs, and if the building does not close, I don't get my money back. So I'm probably out anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 in, say, a good due diligence process. Probably less than three, I would say. At hiring 4 or 5 inspectors, but it's money well spent.
Yeah, but at least knowing that it's a good, you almost
Yes.
have a baseline dependent on a property of what you
Yeah.
would need going into it that you can kind of either set aside or just budget into the process,
It's
which,
almost like insurance,
okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
You're,
it
you're,
does.
you're paying for insurance because in a lot of cases, it's during the end of your due diligence period is when your money goes hard, where you lose your earnest money.
Mm.
So that's why you have to make that decision before you lose your earnest money. Twice now I've played with fire and I did it the day before.
Mm.
So because
Hey Todd,
but
I was just gonna say, do you have more to say about the earnest money?
no, I had in
No?
one case I had $50,000 on the line and had about 6 hours to decide.
Oh goodness, you
Yeah,
were pushing it.
that was pushing it.
Well, I guess what I was going to ask you was you talked a lot about bringing in other people to help you do your due diligence, right? So people that are certified or whatever. So all of those people, right? How do you do your due diligence on these people to make sure you're bringing in somebody that knows what they're talking about? Are you doing like Google searches? Or are you making calls to a couple of people? What are you doing to make sure you're bringing in the right person to help you do your due diligence?
So I have a good story and a bad story about that. In most cases, the good story is that you can find people in the area. This is what they do. Even if you're not from the area, this is what this person do. His reputation is based on this, right? And he's going to provide you with a report with pictures. The roofing inspector provided us a report and he showed us what's wrong with it. The pictures were good enough for me, who's not into roofing, to be like, okay, I get it. I understand. Another thing that happened to me on our elevator guy said, you need fireproof belts. And that's going to run you not 25, it's going to run you $85,000 to fix. The issue with the elevator is we need a new belts. It's a belt-driven elevator. Another guy said there's no such thing as fire-rated belts. So I didn't know what to believe. So I ended up going through 4 or 5 different people until I could figure out my elevator problem. And the truth is there is no such thing as elevator belts. All belts catch fire, I guess is the way he put it to me. So that's a good and bad property. Like I had to put my own due diligence into my elevator guy. I don't think I would ever do a true due diligence site visit without a roofing inspector and probably a general contractor or a licensed contractor or like a building inspector. You know what I mean? You can bring your general contractor too if you knew you were doing a lot of capex.
Are there any, I want to say tools as far as things that you can use to help you along the way as with due diligence? Like, let's say it's your first time, you don't want to skip anything, you don't want to miss anything. When we do underwriting, like you have different spreadsheets and applications that we use collectively when you're helping us to go over numbers to see if it's even a deal worth getting into. Are there any tools like that or I don't know, maybe you create a checklist for due diligence, especially
Yeah.
if you haven't done it before.
Yeah. So I would take, you're more than welcome to like take a picture of the screen. Think about it from this way. I have my own list that's constantly changing. It's not hard to create a list. You'll see them out there or whatever else. But I have a list. That's the list I send to the broker. This is what I want to see. I then have that list redlined in somewhere on key things that are deal breakers. So if you can't produce for me a rent roll, if you can't produce for me a T12, okay, that's a deal breaker. But if you can't produce a site map, I could probably get it somewhere else from the auditor or whatever else. One of the biggest things I would say is whoever's the most organized on your team is probably the person that needs to handle these documents, because you are going to get flooded with documents and you need to be able to share them and control them. And here's a very simple tip. Whatever's sent to you, make a copy and put it in your own drive. Don't let someone else control your information, and only you guys see your information, because you're going to make notes. You may have to go back and renegotiate back on those notes. You need to have an effective storage system, not to mention the video and pictures. You are going to have to come up with a way to organize this information, and it's a ton of stuff. A ton of stuff. Like a
Hey,
Google
Todd.
Drive, I don't think would hold it unless it was like a commercial one.
So for when you talked a little bit about like contract terms and negotiation, so was there contract terms that you did negotiate during your due diligence period that ended up protecting you, or
The,
you think
ele-
was a good thing?
the elevator was the one.
Okay.
The elevator issue became pretty big because there was a timeline. This particular elevator, after a number of trips, would shut off because it was a safety feature and that the belts had to be changed before they could turn the elevator back on. We went back to him and said, we need money for this. He told us to pound salt. The broker got involved and the money came out of the broker's side of things. So that's kind of on him. Same way with the elevator. Or, I'm sorry, same way with the roof. The roof was $125,000. We asked for a reduction. We'll get the roof fixed. He didn't want to do that. That's probably the best example I can give. You are going to go to apartments. The HVAC is another one. Hey, your broker told me I could replace 3 or 4 a year. Nope, you're going to do about 10 a year. You know what I mean? And I think that's where you go back to the broker and say, look, this is what my CapEx is going to be. It's going to hurt my cash flow because I've got to spend some money on this. I got to put it aside, or I have to raise more money. I'm looking for a reduction in price. I think the
Did you
market's
have
changing because I think now sellers, maybe 2.5 years ago when we were all looking at properties, it'd be a lot tougher to renegotiate. Now I think it's opened up a little bit more.
was there any like big surprises? I know you talked about the elevator. Like I feel like that was a big surprise for you, right?
Yes. No other big surprises. I mean, we had seen pictures. We had gone through every one. I was very pleased when we were on site. It's a long day. It is a long day. And then at the end of the day, you got to figure out what's next. What have you seen? It's a lot to take in. Most of them you could do in one day, but you need to have the right team. So, and I looked at fire panels. I mean, stuff like that. I looked at every part of the building.
Michelle had another question. She said, do you ever negotiate a piece of the investment for services instead of paying cash?
Explain that, Michelle.
So I was just thinking, if you have a situation where maybe you've overlooked something and something turns out to be very expensive, do you think it'd be something that, I don't know, something that you can negotiate? If you come up with something that costs you like 50,000, something like that you had looked over, would you think about bringing in like someone to like give them a percentage of the building, like 1% or 2%, or
No,
does that even
no,
make sense? No.
no. I would never. It would have to be a massive problem, and I
Okay.
would never give away, because if you're going to, let's say you're going to syndicate the deal, Michelle,
Mm-hmm.
each portion of that building has already been set aside
Got it.
among the GP and the LP. Like, for us to me to give in a way any part of a deal. Like I can't see a scenario where I would do that.
Okay.
And then Cindy asked, what would you do different? I think I would always take an extra day. I think I would take a day because I think you have so much in so many days. Everybody wants to go to dinner at 7 o'clock at night. There's still work to be done. I think I would take a second day, bring the team back in, go through everything, organize the documents so we can all go back home because you're going to start this process at our individual houses and we're going to come together and then we're all going to go back home and it's Fi's job to read the leases and it's Brianna's job to follow up with the roofing contractor and it's my job to look at the financials. One of the things we did as a group is we used the program. Shoot, I just can't think of it. It's like a task manager program, ClickUp maybe. And that's how we wrote all the tasks down and assigned them. So I knew on my computer when Brianna or Faya got done reading the leases. Cindy said, I went to a due diligence inspection today. Quite interesting. I left after a few hours. It is exhausting. It is exhausting. What did you inspect today, Cindy? She may have left the room.
No, I'm here. I'm in my car. I'm trying to get back to you guys. I guess you can hear me at least, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I was asked to raise capital on a property here in Denver. And, I don't know these people super well. The one gentleman I met, and, he's been giving me the information. So I went to the inspection today and it's a 36 unit. I want to say they're paying $5 million for it. And it's seller finance. I don't know what you saw, Todd, at your inspection, but it's an eye opener. I think they were saying it's a C property in a C neighborhood. Unfortunately, I have A properties in A neighborhoods, and so it was kind of a little bit shocking for me, I guess you could say. So it's a three stories, and the first, I guess, story in a sense is halfway, underground, right? And then the middle story, and then the third story. But the first story, in the window, one of the tenants had empty bed bug spray cans, and yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going into that unit. And there was quite a few people there. They had a management company along with the current manager. It was mostly, probably 100% Spanish speaking tenants. So the current manager is Spanish speaking. They actually had some possible investors there, which I don't know. I just thought there were too many people. So it was interesting, but I didn't need to. Me personally, I didn't need to see every unit, so that's why I left. And
Yeah.
But I saw like a quote updated unit, and then there's only like 3 or 4 that are not updated. But I asked the purchaser if he thought the inspection was going better or worse than he anticipated, and he said it was going as anticipated. They had a roofing inspector there who was going to send them some information, and it's a flat roof. But then it has shingles on the side. Also, it's kind of one of those. I don't know how to explain that. But what was interesting, so I asked specifically about the roof because, as you know, roofs are one of the more expensive things to replace. And there were some issues with the way it was installed, and there was some hail damage, and it is still under warranty. So they were planning on asking the seller to call the insurance company and have it replaced. So that was something, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. I did take a few videos and pictures and stuff that I hope to use in some social media. So
I'll give you a big tip on how to expect every unit that has, because I went to one that had the COVID in it. And then the one, take your teenage son with you. He has to, he has to go through. So we went to one. We were told going in, this is the worst one you're going to see. This was the owner of the building. She managed it. You'll see fruit flies everywhere. This person was unclean. And I said, son, you're up. And he was the one in that took pictures.
Mhm. Yeah, and
So you get to learn a lot about the tenant base, right? When you're going in to do your due diligence, you get to see what type of tenants are living there.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you kind of take a mental note because you have those pictures.
Right.
One of the things we did, sorry, Cindy, one of the things one of the things we did is the owner did not want people to know the building was for sale. So insurance people taking pictures, and I got a lot of dirty looks. But I get it. I mean, I'm in somebody's apartment. They were given plenty of notice, but I am in somebody's apartment.
Did you ever ask any of the tenants how they liked living there, or can you not do that since you did? How did that go?
I absolutely did, and I got nothing but positive feedback. But I had to do it away from the owner. You just got to be cool about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I was at the conference last week or whenever it was, time flies, we went and looked at a building and we weren't doing an inspection or due diligence. We were just looking, and there were tenants there complaining and complaining and complaining and thinking that this was the owner and telling them what everything was wrong. So it was kind of interesting. Now, like I said today, they were probably 100% Spanish speaking, but they were bilingual. One lady did ask me, because I was outside taking pictures and I looked like I didn't belong there. What was where the manager was or something like that. I wasn't sure exactly what she was trying to get at, but anyway, she said she'd go look for the manager. So I don't know what that was all about, but it was an interesting day. I'm really glad I went. I specifically made sure that I went today so I could learn something.
I think a win is coming off the property, not being surprised by anything. So if we're going to buy a property, we know it needs 7 air conditioners. I saw 7 air conditioners that need to be replaced. I have 7 air conditioners in my CapEx budget. Nothing else freaked me out. I think that's a good win.
Yeah.
That's how I'd look at it. Now, I don't know if I ever take an investor with me on a due diligence. I just think the less people, the better. But I can see doing that if somebody wanted a big piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? That's really all I have. I mean, there could be some follow-up questions. I'll kind of go to our contact information. I don't know why that's so blurry. It's coming in. If anybody doesn't have any questions, that's all I got.
Thank you, Todd. This was really good. I would be interested in seeing the first video. This is my first time joining one of the two, so hopefully they recorded it and put it in school. Your first one, is that right?
Yes.
I did drop the link in this chat, but I can also post it in school.
Oh, the link is in the chat. What I'm particularly interested in learning is how you three came together and assigning those roles. Did you really assign to strengths? Did you assign to experience? And how did that start? I'm in the process of looking for my GP team, and I'm curious about how you all got started.
So if you have your GP team and due diligence, yes, I would go to strengths, but it's a teamwork thing, whatever gets the job done. I don't know anything about a roof, but I'm willing to go talk with the roof inspector. I offered to go with the sewer guy. I don't know anything about sewers, but I relied on him to tell me what it was. On the other due diligence items, I handled a lot of the financial stuff. I handled the elevator issue. Just spread the work evenly, but we did go to strengths on that. So we have a guy on our GP team that works for a property management company. He read the leases. I'm not a lease reading guy. It puts me to sleep, but I can do numbers. So that's where I focus at.
And we've kind of talked about like when you're looking for your team, you're looking to build a team. It's kind of like dating, right? You really have to get to know these people and trust them and figure out how they work and how you work and how you can work together. And that's something you have to figure out, right? Before you probably go into a deal with somebody. So it's really just who you can build relationships with. I would continue to network and see who you gel with, who you can develop these good relationships with. Any other advice from anybody else on this call?
Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions beforehand. Don't be afraid to hurt somebody's feelings.
And what did we talk about before? Like if somebody's not doing their job, say you go into a deal with somebody, like have a stipulation in place where everybody agrees, like if these things aren't getting done, then you're off of the team.
Yeah. That's probably into your operating agreement for your GP team.
Sounds good. I was just wondering if you all knew each other personally and then came together, or you just kind of looked to see who was in the area that was in the mastermind and you kind of had a conversation. So I was looking more practically at the dating site and the speed dating of getting your GP team together. But yeah, I will keep looking around. Thank you.
That's probably a good idea. Speed dating site for a general partnership team.
I was just thinking of that. Maybe
We can add that to our list of events.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
But Sonia, we were all in the like for our group here, even with this webinar, we were all in the same mastermind, of course. And again, it's relationship building. So the group of us kind of got together. We started an accountability group. We got way more comfortable with each other. And once those relationships develop, right, and you're working on common goals, it sort of comes together for you. So yeah, just like dating is it's relationship building. The mastermind is a good place to start, but sometimes going to other meetups and things like that and branching out and meeting other people helps kind of build those relationships and help you connect with people that you can work with and build a team with.
Where are you located, Sonia? Just curious.
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. The deals that I have going on are in LA. One is in Jacksonville, Florida, where I'm a capital raiser, and another is in Texas. But I kind of am looking for a team that I can build the relationship with. Like I have been getting people that are in the location. I need boots on the ground because I like nationwide, because I like West Coast and East Coast. And I just, it's, I don't know. It's been, I'm ready to settle down with one partner type of thing. So, I like people that are flexible, and I was working with Mika, and she said, put your job description together for each of your team members, and we discussed that today. So that's what I'm going to be working on tonight. But I was just curious about how you guys came together.
Yep, just like Faya said, we met in the mastermind and then we wanted to hold each other accountable, and we just started meeting every Saturday and developing that relationship. We've been meeting. How long have we been meeting now, guys? Goodness, a year? Longer?
It's definitely been more than a year
Has
because
it?
it has, because it's been before I came to Iraq, and I've been out here about a year and a half.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. And we've had a few new people join a little bit after that. But yeah, just developing that relationship. But I think also if you put out there maybe your locations and the locations that you're looking to invest, that might be helpful to you as well. Because maybe there's another investor that is looking in that area.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Any
thank
other
you.
questions? You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Anybody else have any other questions before we wrap up?
When you guys, just one more question, if you don't mind,
Mhm.
please. When you are looking at the financial statements, um, do you have a place in the former, I guess, webinar or this one where you kind of highlight, look at this. I mean, yes, the financial statement can be 70 pages, but these three are the ones you really need to focus on. Like, do you have anything like that? Or these three line items are really, or what are the most important?
I think we did one for underwriting, but also with our guru Todd right here, who is our underwriting instructor. We might be able to go into that a little more at some point.
Yeah, there's no three things that I would point to. Anything that I make money on, anything that costs me money is what I look at. You have categories that are tough now to budget, like real estate taxes is one, insurance is one here in the Midwest. But if it costs me money, it's a concern. If it makes me money, it's a concern. So I generally look at an income statement. I take a T12, I break it down for the last 3 months, and then I annualize that so I can see the most recent data. And that's how I bring it down. Obviously, then the next thing you think about is how you would operate. You may operate very differently than somebody operating it now. You may need a property manager, which is going to cost you a certain number for a certain dollar amount, whereas the person you're buying from does not use a property manager, so that's the expense. You need to think about how you would operate it in a realistic fashion. So that's the advice I would give you about looking at financial statements. Don't believe a word anybody says either. Again, I'm not trying to be
Gotcha.
mean. It's just a mentality.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I appreciate you three. Thank you so much for this webinar. Is there a third part or is it just a two-parter?
We've talked about a third part. I think the next thing could be some type of property management or what happens at closing. Um, I think us three are going to put that together, just trying to figure out what we think would be good and what would translate into good training. So I think we'll talk about that probably pretty soon, right, guys?
Yeah,
Within the next couple of days.
yeah, over the next couple of days, we'll finalize what that third topic is going to be, um, and push it out to everyone. This video in a couple of days should also be on the YouTube link that I dropped in the chat. And what we do like is, questions like this for people to inquire and ask about the things that they want to see happen, because then those are the videos that we do to make sure people get the information that they need. And we always wind up learning new things from those sessions as well. So we appreciate all the questions. They're super helpful to us in creating the content that people actually want and find useful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, you have our contact information. If you have any follow-up questions, I'm happy to answer it. Brianna and Fire
Yep.
will answer.
And we'll send out an email to everyone who's on here with our contact information, again, with the link for the YouTube. We're super grateful for you guys logging on. It's
Yeah.
super early in the morning for me here, overseas, but it's always good. So once you have that email, you can respond to us if there's topics you want us to dig into, and we want it to be a conversation. So even if we just decide on a topic and jump on a call and we're all talking about our experiences and where we can help each other with those topics, I find that super helpful, and I think other people do as well. So if you let us know what you're looking for, we'll be more than happy to try to put that out there as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Other than that, we will give you back your evenings and thank you again for joining, and hopefully see you next time.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
See you.
Yes,
Bye.
thanks.